Time for a rant.
Once again, Lucasfilm proved me and so many others right that they are nothing more than a political propaganda company, and whoever they have running their social media account recently has gone full left-wing nonsense, and they have shown how unprofessional Lucasfilm really is.
Left-wing nonsense, you say? So what determines something to be left-wing? What determines something to be right-wing? You morons use these terms, these buzzwords, left-wing, right-wing, based on one or two sentence replies on a social media Twitter account. And if it doesn't fall in your line of thinking, therefore they're left-wing or they are right-wing. If I could get 1 penny for every time these morons say left-wing, right-wing, when the actual accounts that are replying or posting things aren't even specifying left or right, rather they choose to get offended over something and then they force these political buzzword terms in order to apply what they think is political propaganda. Do you even know what the fucking word propaganda is? Twitter replies are not propaganda, you moron.
What a complete and total disaster they are. But again, it's not surprising to anyone that has been paying the slightest bit of attention to how Lucasfilm operates. Now, I don't really have a problem if people get called out here or there. I don't have a problem. If you say something and you end up getting ratioed or destroyed, that's part of the internet, and I really don't have a problem with that in isolation.
Okay, cool, but why do you then contradict yourself later in the video by making an issue and generalizing and putting everybody into a bubble because you think that every single person in a fandom automatically represents one singular thing?
I have a problem when a company like Lucasfilm tries to act like they are holier than thou and how they stand against bigotry and intolerance and racism and all of these other things. But yet they respond to a fan that doesn't line up with their political ideology.
So please explain to me what their political ideology is, because quite frankly, somebody saying this in reply to a tweet and them replying to that, how is that pushing any sort of political ideology? You think that you're asking these big fucking questions, but these questions are more fucking idiotic than anything.
And then because of that response, it then triggers an enormous reaction from the left-wing followers, absolutely trashing this individual.
Ah, yes, generalizing anyone who agrees or anyone who replies as left-wing. This is the problem that I have with politics, with fucking idiots like this. But folks like this actually create more of a divide because they have to constantly associate and generalize everybody in categories as left-leaning or right-leaning, and they generalize entire fandoms based upon what individuals do, say, or post. And I'm so sick and tired of people thinking this way.
And the Star Wars account, the same Star Wars account that says we resist against X, Y, or Z, or the latest thing that's popular, they have no problem with their very own fan base saying the worst things imaginable.
So for context, this is what he's referencing. Somebody replied to a variant cover, keyword being variant cover, comic book, which is not even a standard issue comic book cover for Pride Month. Somebody says, hey, stop making Star Wars political. Star Wars account replies to it. The guy gets ratioed and quote tweeted by thousands of other people all on social media. Apparently, this fucking retard seems to think that if I or anyone or any social media account replies to someone and other people see that reply and then quote tweeted or reply to that and are being toxic or say toxic things, therefore the original person who replied, the Star Wars account, therefore are culpable, are responsible for thousands upon millions of other people in response to that. And I'm just going to say for the record, geeks and gamers, you're a fucking moron. You're a fucking moron primarily because you can't distinguish between the difference. And if you reply to somebody on social media, and let's just say somebody who follows you, who is a fan of you, starts saying toxic things or telling somebody to go KYS themselves, by your own logic, you're culpable for that because they are a quote-unquote fan of you. Do you understand how stupid you sound right now by trying to generalize anyone who replies or anybody who quote tweets because the Star Wars account replied to someone saying something idiotic? Furthermore, this really made me chuckle. Stop making Star Wars political, they scream. And then if you go to episode 1, the text scroll, it literally is about taxation of the trade routes. Like, Star Wars has always had politics in it. You know, fighting against the Empire, against authoritarianism. You know, even in science fiction, taxes are a thing. People being treated poorly because they won't side with one particular, set of belief, political ideology. Star Wars has had that. Star Wars has had politics in it. This really isn't that deep, but I just can't stand this guy's ability to not even understand what the fuck he's actually saying. Just equally applying this to myself. Am I responsible for any fans that quote tweet me or reply to something that I reply to and they're being super toxic, despite the fact that even in videos where I've made on my main channel where I've said, please don't harass these types of people, and then a fan or somebody who just watches me casually goes and harasses somebody, am I responsible for what other fans do? No. In the same way that you're not responsible for what other fans do, Geeks and Gamers, in the same way that Star Wars is not responsible for fans of their fandom. Folks like yourself like to create fandoms and categorize them in this bubble of left and right, and when you do that, it actually creates more problems than it actually fixes. Whether somebody is left-leaning or right-leaning, I don't give a fuck. If they like Star Wars, they like Star Wars. If somebody voted for Trump, I don't give a fuck. They can like Star Wars. If somebody voted for Biden, they can like Star Wars. I don't give a fuck.
To the person that they responded to. You know it's bad. You know it's bad when I have a higher standard of how the Geeks and Gamers Twitter account runs than the Lucasfilm company does for their Star Wars account.
It's fucking hysterical to me that you're sitting here talking about how you think a Twitter account is presenting themselves holier than thou when you're literally doing the exact same thing to yourself. You're putting yourself on a pedestal saying how much better and more professional you are. Blatant contradiction much, or are you just too stupid to realize what you're actually saying?
Because I have a rule on the actual Geeks and Gamers account that we don't actually respond to people. We are there to transfer the information of the individuals at Geeks and Gamers. So if I make a video, or if Ryan, or if someone on the website writes an article, or if there's something to share. But the Geeks and Gamers account itself, the brand account, has no opinion. It doesn't have a stance. It doesn't think movies are bad or good. It doesn't think that this thing is good or bad. It's simply there to give you information.
So you're telling me that throughout your entire YouTube career on online presence, you've never replied to somebody and then somebody else had some sort of vitriolic or toxic response to you or a fan of yours? That's never happened? Bullshit. That just doesn't happen online when you have a large audience of any size.
From the individuals at Geeks and Gamers, share articles, share videos, or whatever. That's it. But the Lucasfilm Star Wars account has decided they are drawing a line in the sand.
You know, personally, I'm of the belief that at some point, people should draw a line in the sand. If you have folks messaging Moses Ingram saying that her days, quote, are numbered from her own Instagram DMs, now whether this is from a troll account or whether from an actual person, I don't give a fuck. The point is, it's inappropriate, it's wrong, and it's racism when somebody's calling and saying the fact that Moses Ingram was only hired as a diversity hire. I'm sorry, but that is incredibly racist to me. That's how I see that. And folks like Geeks and Gamers and, you know, the Quartering and other fucking wokeism fucking morons, when evidence is provided or they say, hey, can I see evidence of a Star Wars fan or somebody showing racism towards this individual actress, that evidence is shown to them, they just dismiss it. Oh, well, it's not that bad. It's really not that racist, or, you know, it could be way worse. They always ask for evidence, and then when they were given evidence, they dismiss it as not being big enough or valid enough. And it's people like Geeks and Gamers, the Quartering, that literally make me want to take a nail and plunge it into my fucking eye sockets because of their inability to understand that not everything is wokeism. Not everything is forced diversity. Not everything left-leaning or right-leaning. You know, I have to say it for the record here because I'm sure some of these fucking people are going to come into my comment section and they're going to be all saying, you're a leftist asshole. Guess what, bitch? I'm a political moderate. There's problems with right-leaning people, left-leaning people, and I oppose extremism on all fronts. But just because I'm a moderate politically, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to respond to people being homophobic or people being genuinely racist. Hell, if you look at the whole quantum TV drama just fucking yesterday between Review Tech USA, the Actman, and other creators, he went on a whole video and said that you can't be homophobic because he's vegan. If I respond to somebody being homophobic, does that make me left-leaning? Does that make me right-leaning? Seriously, ask yourself that question. Because if a Star Wars Twitter account can't respond to somebody saying something fucking stupid, then that means I can't either. That means you can't either, Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. That means none of us can, because by default, any response we have, whether that be YouTube videos, whether that be on a Twitter account, we're going to have some fan or somebody respond and be toxic. Toxicity exists in every goddamn fandom, within video games, within movies. It exists everywhere. And I'm not going to shut the fuck up simply because my response to something may make somebody go off the deep end and be vitriolic. People are responsible for their own individual things that they say okay? Individually, what somebody else does doesn't reflect what I think they should or shouldn't be doing. And unless I am going out there directly, or the Star Wars account is going out directly saying, go, harass this person, go dox them, encouraging the actual behavior, a simple response to that does not condone what other people do. And I really wish you'd understand that.
In fact, one of the responses from the Lucasfilm Star Wars account says, there's more of us than them. So you say Star Wars is for everyone, but then you make a statement that says there are more of us than them. What does that mean? Can you please give us some details? And if you look at these responses,
Star Wars has always been about diversity, thousands upon different species of creatures and humans. I'd like to think that there's a lot less racists and homophobes in the at least USA, or are okay with the fact that this is a variant cover for Pride Month. It literally says Pride variant at the very top corner. There's a lot more people that tolerate this type of stuff and think it's perfectly okay and doesn't affect them in any possible way in their daily life. And there are people who, like you, who make problems out of nothing.
These are terrible responses. Now, again, does it hurt my feelings that people are being mean on the internet? No. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with how Lucasfilm acts like they are holier than thou and they are better than everyone else, and that they don't stand for bullying. We don't stand for these things. Yet you are actively creating this environment.
If replying to people on Twitter is creating that environment, then I myself and you, Geeks and Gamers, are creating the exact same environment when we make videos on certain topics. It is no different than you or I, or anybody else for that matter.
In fact, one of the people that she's been on Park Hoppin' a few times, and she's been a follower of Geeks and Gamers for a long time, Jane Theory had to deal with someone saying this right here to her, because this is the Lucasfilm fan base right here. Look at what this person says to her. Now, this is a pro Obi-Wan Kenobi fan saying this to a black woman. That's the type of mentality that Lucasfilm is creating.
That, in my personal opinion, is a really dumb comment. But why are you generalizing every single person who has a toxic, vitriolic response and putting them in a bubble saying that this is the type of fandom everybody's categorized as? That just isn't accurate.
All this started with was someone says, don't make Star Wars political, when they are talking about a political issue during a politically created month. Why does gay and queer people, as you say they are, Lucasfilm, why do they only deserve like 1 month for you to celebrate them?
You think that this is a gotcha question when the reality is you clearly have no understanding or knowledge of how Pride Month originated. You act as if Star Wars created Pride Month. They didn't. Are you familiar with the 1969 Stonewall riots? It all started with 2 police officers demanding that they check the sex of certain customers by a physical examination. And the very first Pride event was organized by Brenda Howard, who was a bisexual at the time. I think it was in June of the 1970s sometime. And it wasn't until 1971 that we had one of our first Pride events or Pride walks established, and that started being spread all over the world. Then I think it was in 1999, and although I'm not a big fan of Bill Clinton, he declared a gay and lesbian Pride Month. And then even our past president, Barack Obama, promoted Pride Month. So if you're going to create this issue with specifically Star Wars celebrating Pride Month, you have to also contribute and ask this question towards past presidencies, and maybe educate yourself a little bit on the origins of Pride History Month and why it exists, how it got started, rather than ask such a stupid question designated to only the Star Wars Twitter account to answer because you think that they have some sort of agenda by creating a Pride variant comic book cover, which affects literally nobody. It's a very small majority of people who are actually having an issue with it.
And again, and I quote, it says there are more of us than them. That is what Lucasfilm is all about. This is a disaster. It's not going to get any better. They don't like you. They don't respect you. They don't respect George Lucas. They don't respect this history. They don't respect this lore. They don't respect the fan base. They don't respect anything. They are nothing more than a politically driven company. That is the bottom line. There's no way for people to spin that at this point. It's in their own words. There are more of us than them. What does that mean?
I would definitely say that Disney itself, not Lucasfilm, but Disney, has definitely made some bad decisions in the past in regards to marketing in other countries. That what I would agree with you with. But one thing that you have to remember is that Disney, although it owns Lucasfilm, although it owns Pixar, they definitely have been making amends and doing better with their decisions and marketing decisions. The new movie Lightyear, for example, they put a same-sex kiss, which was originally going to be removed because of outrage, but Pixar decided to include that, and I think it was a perfectly awesome decision to do so. I don't think that you should be remove something in a film because it was originally there because of outcry, whether that person's a leftist, whether that person's from the right. I think that's stupid. All in all, Geeks and Gamers, stop dividing people and making things out where issues aren't actually there and generalizing entire fandoms. Whoever is running that social media account wants to apply to stupid shit, and just like you are allowed to reply to stupid shit, I'm allowed to reply to stupid shit. That's just how the world works. I'm not responsible for what other people do or say unless I am actively telling people to go do something. Individual responsibility, that's what this boils down to. If only you were smart enough to acknowledge that.